right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us on the first ever Headliner PodPod, the podcast about podcasts, where we talk about podcasts that are part of the Headliner family. And so the first show we're doing this week is called Famous and Gravy. And part of the reason we're doing this show is because I met one of the hosts. I actually met both of the hosts, Michael and Amit, at Podcast Movement last week. And they were cool guys, and I thought it would be fun to kind of listen to their podcast. And I surprised myself on the plane ride home. I actually liked it. So, yeah, so that's kind of one of the first reasons we're starting here. So, quick little bit about the show. I'll read a little bit from their website about what it is. It's called Famous and Gravy. Famous and Gravy? Famous and Gravy is not only about celebrities, it's about you and I and the things we value and care about. On this podcast, we look at the more holistic life of a dead celebrity beyond just their fame and determine what excites, drives, or disappoints us. You, the listener, is invited to form your own interpretation about what makes for quality of life, and that just may help you make decisions about or make peace with aspects of your own life. Famous people have given us the gift of public visibility, which comes with it life documentation in the form of biographies, articles, videos, and second-hand accounts, on top of our own memories of them. With all of these sources, we now get a fairly complete view of these once notorious lives, allowing us to look at them with a similar degree of discussion that we would apply to a literary protagonist. So on each episode, through a category-based conversation about a recently dead celebrity, we make assessments on quality of life at the end, determine if we would want that particular life or not. I'll read you one more little snippet from the website, which is kind of important. It's their celebrity criteria. So here we go. The person needs to have died between 1 and 10 years ago, more than 1 year to allow space for grief and sorrow, to bypass immediate media influence, and mainly to pay respect. We cap it at 10 years because we don't want their story yet fully inked in the history books. Plus, we want our memories of this person to be fresh enough to add a personal layer. We are otherwise not limited in the nature of celebrity or by nationality. All right, so that's kind of a little bit about the show. The first episode, the episode that we all listen to, is episode 57, Cool Hand Dylan, which is about Luke Perry. I thought it would be fun to start out where each person could kind of just introduce themselves really quickly and then explain the show as if you had to say to a friend, like, hey, I listened to this podcast. Just how would you tell them? So the first one is for you, Jesse.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way I would describe this show is kind of like they're essentially giving a case study on a celebrity's life and what they think is important facts that we can kind of learn from and glean from it. I know that's a strictly business point of view. However, I do think that is one that a way that it kind of speaks to me on a level.
Awesome. Thank you, Jesse. Alyssa, you're up next.
So echoing exactly what Jesse said, I will add a little bit more of like a colorful perspective. They really definitely tried to humanize the celebrity because we know like Luke Perry from 90210, or I know him from 8 Seconds. That was like a go-to movie for me. So it was just very interesting to hear how they were trying to humanize him and just all the celebrities that they talk about, so they can be a little bit more relatable and not just like this icon that we all think of. But yeah.
Awesome. Max.
Hey, nice to be here.
Well, thank you for joining. I love your decor.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting how they used Luke Perry as kind of a vehicle to like meditate on the meaning of life. So I thought I like that aspect of the podcast, and just anything that's, as a proper podcast does, use some kind of not mundane, obviously not in Luke Perry's case, who's obviously quite interesting, if only visually, but used an interesting subject as a way to kind of get to something deeper discussion about the meaning of it all. So yeah, it was quite fun.
Awesome. Christy, I believe you are next on the Zoom wheel of speaking.
Hey, so after listening to the podcast, the way I would kind of explain it to like my podcaster friends is, if you want to like the way that we see celebrities in our day and age through bite-sized stuff, through like the tweet and through Instagram, and it's just like a bit of news. usually about a person, or if someone wants to go through the Wikipedia, you're getting like the condensed version. Having this was just a nice reflection, like showing the mirror back to a person's life in like a positive light. And it was just delightful. I had a very, very good time listening to this. And as a person that works in podcasting, I don't really listen to a lot of podcasts outside of like Dungeons and Dragons actual play, but spreading my wings and like jumping into something new, this was like absolutely delightful.
All right, Nicholas.
Cool. So right off the bat, this isn't a hypothetical because I did actually have to explain this podcast to a buddy of mine a few hours ago. I would describe it as a interesting, almost like a retrospective piece, but it's like also framed almost like a game show at points. I don't know if anyone else got that vibe, but
yeah, the end 100%.
Yeah, right. Like it becomes like a game show, and it starts with this interesting exchange where it's like, guess that celebrity. And I felt like I was listening to The Dating Game for a second, reference that I think only Oliver knows. But
I think that even predates me, Nicholas.
Yeah, I think it does too.
You're an old soul when it comes to media.
I am.
Sure.
I always tell people I was born holding a copy of Billy Joel's The Stranger. I'm just that much of an old man. No, but that's basically, I would call it like a game show, kind of talking about celebrity and using it as like a springboard to talk about life and these vaguely existential topics, but in a really fun and approachable way. It's a shakeup from what I usually listen to, for sure.
Cool. All right, so for the next kind of round, for the content of the show, like what resonated with you?
I'll go first with this because you sent this over to us. I was like, cool. I listened to it, had a great time, and then went on with my day. But I ended up I looked up Alan Rickman, and I didn't really realize like why I was. And then I realized it's because I listened to this podcast. And then I ended up watching Dogma, and I found that this podcast like seeped into me deeper than I expected, where it actually influenced my behavior for the next few hours. And I was like, okay, so this was a great podcast. And sometimes I didn't think I would know until like, I guess 5 hours later when I finished that movie again for like the 15th time, like, okay, I'm probably going to subscribe and listen to it.
And can we get some context on who Alan Rickman is for listeners? Definitely not any of us on the
Alan
call
Rickman,
forgot who that is.
I want to say Alan Rickman is the villain in Die Hard 1, but
Yep.
Everyone knows him as Snape. And I grew up watching Alan Rickman in like so much stuff. He's in like a really goofy Robin Hood villain role. He plays a bunch of goofy villains, but yeah, he's, the ever loved Snape. But before he was Snape, he did a bunch of weirdo stuff, and that's what I love him for. But just thinking of like the concept of like a dead celebrity, and like I just maybe it went up top level for me, where I was like, oh man, I miss this guy. I want to go get involved in like a piece of art that he made. And I didn't realize it was because of the podcast I listened to until much later.
Were we talking
It's
about
really
Dogma?
interesting.
Yes, Dogma.
The movie with
Yes.
Matt Damon and who else? Not that one.
Ben Affleck.
Yes.
That one.
Chris
Oh,
Rock,
wow.
yeah.
So Dogma is like this really this is going to sound strange, but if anyone gets this, I do have a DVD copy at home of Dogma, and the fact that I own one is weird. Apparently they didn't make very many of them, and I just found this out not that long ago. There were some Twitter film stuff where like if you have a copy of it, it's very rare. But that was a movie that I used to watch a lot as a kid. And it was like my first introduction to like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck and that whole View Askew kind of universe. But Alan Rickman played an angel, and it was Metatron specifically, and he is just, again, I'm going to use this word a lot. He is delightful in that movie, and I'm just happy that I listened to this podcast because it made me like enjoy something new in a new light again.
Christy, it's amazing that you were so touched by this. I do have one question. Did you listen to the Luke Perry episode or the Alan Rickman episode?
Yes, I listened to the Luke Perry episode. It was because of the Luke Perry episode that I ended up going even further. That's why
you
it was
listened
so
to all
good.
of more of their episodes.
No, I didn't. Oh, no, I listened to that episode. I just found
Alan
that
Rickman is
Where does he
episode
come in?
35.
Does he come in at the next? All right, I need to listen to the Alan Rickman episode. He died within the last 1 to 10 years, so the 1,000,000%.
He's episode 35. Oh, so the fact that you listened to the episode, I understand now. I thought as you were talking, I was like, oh man, Christy must have listened to the Alan Rickman episode. But you're saying
no.
like sorry.
Oh my God, no!
What is the context now? I'm lost.
I listened to the Luke Perry episode and was just like, oh, this is great. And then I ended up just diving more into dead celebrities, and that's how I know it was a good podcast episode, because it influenced my life after the episode. Like, that's why it was so interesting.
Like, it got you to take stock of your relationship with dead celebrity. Okay.
Yeah,
because their episode for Alan Rickman, episode 35, is called Likeable Villain.
Yes, 1,000,000%.
Wow.
I was like, there's no way Chrissy didn't listen to this one, but wow. Amazing.
I will now.
And Luke Perry never worked with Alan Rickman, just to clarify.
Just to clarify, you know what? I like doing
Got
the Rolodex really quickly. I don't think they ever worked together.
Yeah, I don't think
Correct
they
me
ever
if I'm
worked
wrong.
together, but you could play like 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon and find a connection probably.
And Luke Perry, it was actually just really fun just to kind of remember Luke Perry as well. He was in this, first time I ever saw him, like, I remember like commercials of 90210 when I was a kid, and like seeing like his like smolder on TV. And then like the actual first thing I ever watched of his is he was in this weird sci-fi channel series called The Invasion. And I don't think anybody has ever seen it except for me, because I used to watch Sci-Fi Channel like strictly as a kid, and it's like bad good, but like Luke Perry shines, and that's like why I remember that so much, because he was great.
Awesome. Does anyone else have anything to resonate?
Yeah, so I guess my thing is the opposite of resonating. I liked the podcast, but I actually went into this like knowing the name Luke Perry, but not necessarily the face or the work, because this is the part where I carbon date myself. I wasn't around for 90210. Never caught it.
1,000,000%.
You know. Yeah, so like I just cheated right now. I just peeked at his filmography and I was like, oh, okay, he was this guy in Community. I know him from The Simpsons and Family Guy. So I'm familiar with him. I know of him, but even without that like kind of primer, where the thing I know him best for is the one season of Riverdale I saw, begrudgingly at that. I thought it was really interesting, and it was cool to just learn about this like part of pop culture and history that totally flies over my head.
I forgot he was in Riverdale. I love that show.
I was gonna say that was like
Riverdale.
They brought up Riverdale, and I was like, wow, I really did try and suffer through that. But then I remembered, like, I made like there was a cast change, and I was like, oh, and then obviously dots started connecting, and they made like a reference to Taylor Swift in the podcast. They were like, he was like Taylor Swift, so like paralleling that, I was like, oh no, this dude was like really big. It wasn't just this like really one-off like attempt at a good series.
Yeah, he wasn't like a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, which I mean, I wouldn't, put Riverdale as anybody's like pinnacle of acting career show by any means.
Yeah. Taylor Swift might have been a bit too generous, to be honest, but I get the point.
Yeah, but anyways, and then like I knew they said like an 8 seconds reference. I'm like, oh, he's Lane Frost. Okay, so then dots connected, but yeah, I didn't carbon dating myself too. Didn't realize who he was until they made very specific references.
So I guess I'll share like kind of some thoughts too. I thought it was like going in when I first listened to it, I was kind of worried it was going to be, I think what the term you use now is cringy. Because I'm like, oh, they're going to talk about like someone who died, and this is going to probably get offensive in some way, and it's going to be hard to listen to. But they walk a really fine line between, in a really good way, where it feels like very kind of supportive and genuine in terms of the interest in this person's life and how they talk about it. They do have the game show parts, which were fun. But yeah, the part that kind of I thought was most interesting, or like was kind of most interesting to listen to in some way, was they were kind of talking about like, was he a good actor or not, and like only and does that matter because he was so famous for a period of time. Like I remember him just mostly from like being on the cover of magazines in the 90s, or maybe it was, I don't know when it was a long time ago, but like his face was just everywhere, like out, before before the internet was widespread, it was printed and plastered all over the real world. And so,
But not the show,
like,
Oliver. You got to specify because it's the 90s.
yeah, not the show. I mean, the show was, the show, there's no plastering on the show. Oh, yeah. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting. And, I don't know if he can act or not, but it's true. He's a very good looking man. So
I found that really funny how they kept circling back on that. It kind of felt like anytime there was silence, they were like, but he's a handsome dude. And honestly, I say that unironically. I'm going to start using that in everyday conversation. So if we're ever in a meeting and I just say, but he's a handsome dude, I ask you all politely to just nod and let me have my moment.
Incredible.
I'm
writing that
Thank
down.
you. No, but I thought it was interesting because like they were talking about his acting ability. And I was sort of like, well, if he was like famous, I know he's like famous for being really, really, really incredibly good looking, as they quoted Zoolander in there. But like, I'd assume if he had a career after the show and then like looking again, I'm just peeking at his filmography. He has this huge like career as like almost like a bit part player, like a sort of a character actor who just plays the important but not leading character. I'd assume he can act. It's not that hard, I think I forget who said it. You hit your mark, you say your lines, and you make sure you're in the light.
One thing that I found really interesting is whenever they were talking about Luke Perry's reaction to fame, and I know they started at whenever they were talking about when the pilot was being shot, and the director was like, "Look, we're just going to try to make a good product, and if people actually somehow want to listen to this, then we're just going to roll with it all the way to however long the ride is." And so they weren't really anticipating the fame, but whenever he was trying to deal with it, everyone was yelling his name out anytime he was in public, but it wasn't Luke Perry, it was his character's name. And he says, all these people think they want to see me. He's like, but I know they don't actually want to see me. They want to see my character. And he's like, they don't even know me, yet they're yelling my name. And I thought that was some chilling stuff.
Especially he was like in his 20s, like early 20s, like when that was happening too. So like context too, like super mature.
Yeah, I think the stuff about the mascot was really interesting too. They kind of highlighted on that. If you haven't heard the podcast yet or know this part of Luke Perry's life, when he was in high school, he became the school mascot, despite not being an actor at that time. And I guess it was his ability or his opportunity to act without being a good looking person. It was like pure appreciation for what he was doing behind the mask. And he really apparently enjoyed being able to see people's reactions that didn't have to do with his face and kind of like, I guess, get judged on his ability. So yeah, it seemed like pretty probably good person overall from all the stories.
Yeah.
The balloon story on the plane was a good one.
That was a little strange, I'll be honest, that he carries balloons with him on every plane. I mean, nice idea, but like he would always carry balloons with him on every plane he went on.
Without the context of him being famous, it is kind of a bit out there, but it's a sweet story. Yeah. I was going to also add, like, I like the fact that they brought up, I think they said he goes back to Ohio a lot and he's like super proud of the fact that he's from Ohio. I thought that was sweet, especially because 2023's like biggest meme has just been making fun of the state of Ohio. So it's just like, yeah, the corn state. Woo, Luke Perry loves it. I love it. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, is there anything else in terms of the content of the show that anyone wanted to talk about, or anything that you were hoping we'd cover there?
I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. Because like when I read the premise of the show, I was kind of like, oh, this can be done very badly, very easily. And that's not like putting down the creators of it, because they did a great job and I really liked it. And not only was it well done, it was like very well produced and stuff. But the idea of like doing a retrospective on a celebrity, it feels almost too easy to just read the obituary or the Wikipedia. And this was anything but that. So yeah, I just like really commend them on like sticking the landing there.
Yeah, I like the part about them asking afterwards would they want Luke Perry's life. So I think on this podcast we all have to answer that question. And, I would love to know, would you guys want Luke Perry's life?
I do want to carry balloons on a plane now. That is like a very specific thing that I do want to do now. Yes.
I mean, it sounds like it would be pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never been really good looking
worth $20 million or something like that is his net worth.
Yeah, like a humble celebrity amount. 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just like, that's okay, cool. That's a very comfortable old Hollywood number.
Exactly. You don't have to work. You do it for the craft.
Yes.
At 20 million.
Yeah,
Exactly.
20 million. Yeah, I think that's where it's like, if I ever became an actor, that's exactly the amount I want to be worth. And like, I don't have to worry about the pressures of like the other things that I have to do.
I don't want Tom Hanks wealth. I want Luke Perry wealth.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't want to admit that this is, I think, a part that I very distinctly remember, but I feel like I need to fact check that and say I think it was 5 million.
I think it was 10.
I think it was like 10 or 20 because they made
10.
a point of saying, "Oh yeah, you really like that number."
That's right.
One of the hosts
10.
said it. Yep.
So
okay, it was 10.
Does it change your answer? Still take the 10?
It's
I'll
still
take the
$10 million,
10.
Max.
Yes, it's still $10 million.
Still got to do it.
Also, for the record, the reason I would want his life is one, because he's incredibly handsome, guys. Seriously. I mean,
Yeah.
they said it.
Tall drink of water.
Yeah, tall drink of water. Did they
As we
say that?
in New York? Well, no, it's what we say. It's a
Okay.
New York saying. I don't know if you guys.
That's a very
Is that
It's not New
I
York.
think that's
It's-
just like a saying.
It's
I
just
need an
a saying.
etymology
It's
of
not a New York
tall
saying.
drink of water.
Just
a good
great.
saying. But also because I'm me, I also want his life, specifically because they titled this episode "Cool Hand." I don't remember exactly what they called it.
Cool Hand
Yeah.
Dylan.
Cool Hand Dylan, which is a Cool Hand Luke reference. So
Yeah.
movie nerd, yeah, of course I'll go for it.
Yeah, that's the one where he had to eat all the eggs, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Oh,
Which is Cool Hand Luke
horrendous.
was his.
Prison movie from the 60s.
Paul
Sorry, I'm
Newman.
blanking on the actor that he looks like.
Steve McQueen.
James.
James Dean is the one.
James
that
Dean.
he looks
Oh,
like.
yeah.
He looks
Who
like
is,
James Dean.
Yeah, who is his celebrity previous lookalike, right?
Yeah, but he wasn't in Cool Hand Luke.
Who was?
Paul-
Oh, okay. So
it's Paul
I just
Newman.
kind of assumed that
it
reference
was Paul
based
Newman.
on my bad recollection of
No,
movie
no
history.
worries.
It wasn't Alan Rickman.
Was it?
And
It
nobody
wasn't
listened
Hans
to
Gruber.
that
Are we
episode.
sure? Are we sure?
All right, so for the last section, I just wanted to see if anyone had any, especially with this crew, does anyone have any thoughts on the sound design, the recording, the more technical kind of aspect of how the podcast is put together? So what you like, what you think could be done differently, or would you like to see different, kind of just whatever in that realm you'd like to talk about.
There was a single little audio clip, and it was when they were talking about Luke Perry in the Simpsons episode and how they split up the audio from the Simpsons episode and put in the sound effects in between him like describing the episode. And I thought it was so great. It painted the imagination very well for it to be an audio podcast and not having the video right there. But it's cut up exactly like people that are posting it on social media, video sites are doing. And I just thought it was a genius little moment.
Yeah, they did that a lot, and it was great. They sort of like straddled that line between like investigative journalism and just like a two-person chatting podcast, which was cool. And like Jesse just said, like it totally tapped into that like YouTube video essay scene, which is literally all I watch on YouTube. So to just have like a cutaway halfway through a podcast was different for me, but it was like perfectly done.
It reminded me of like VH1 Behind the Music, just in style alone. That carbon dates me a little bit. The other thing is I've been trying to figure out what I want to call this, but in a lot of podcasts, I feel like they always end with like this same weird jazz music, where it's like it's always like this hi-hat and like a little bit of like intro jazz, and then it like goes full jazz and then it fades away and that's the end of the episode. That's gotta be a meme by it's gotta be a meme by now for podcasting. Like everyone ends this everything with like this jazz or like this soft thing that lifts up and it fades away. I don't know. We gotta call it something because everyone does it. It's kind of
music. It's sort of like that elevator music.
It's like Podzac.
It's Podzac. It's
that doesn't sound like a prescription drug.
It won't get you copyrighted.
Everyone ends with the exact same. I think it's all the same song. It's all clips from the same song.
Yeah, it might actually be. For all we know, it might be.
For all we know, it all sounds like it. As someone that makes a lot of music, it's the one thing that is like, is that the same song again? Like it's a completely different podcast. But like anything that does in the drama side, I feel like everyone kind of pulls, and like maybe that's something about podcasting itself, where when you do drama, when you do more of a intimate thing, the best way to, maybe that's something about jazz music, is it kind of is a good, happy, joyous period at the end of the sentence that everyone agrees on and no one's ever talked about.
Maybe. I really don't know. Worth like contemplating and just like thinking about, honestly.
See, this podcast was so good. It's just making me think about stuff outside of the podcast as well.
Like Hans Gruber.
Yes, like Hans Gruber, like specifically. Yeah. Cool Hand Gruber.
Yeah.
It's been real, everybody. We'll talk to Jesse, Alyssa, Max, Christy, and Nicholas, all the ATR, whatever. I think every mic here was from Audio Technica. Thank you for sponsoring the podcast, Audio Technica. Everyone, we'll talk soon. Remember, if you're going to use Headliner, don't forget your bed liners, because we like clean trucks and clean audio files.
Smooth.